I never imagined I'd be the guy posting here, but here I am. I'm a 39M, married to Claire, 37F, for 12 years. We've got 2 kids, our daughter is 9 and our son is 7. We also have this little house with a garden, the kind of place you'd point to and say, that's what stability looks like. For the longest time, I thought that house reflected our marriage, steady, safe, unshakable. We weren't the power couple type. We were the comfortable slippers couple. Our lives had a rhythm, morning coffees in mismatched mugs, Claire humming while packing school lunches, me mowing the lawn while the kids argued about the swing set. We had our rituals too, family movie nights, Saturday soccer games, Sunday barbecue with neighbors. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. That's why it hit me so hard when the cracks started to show. They weren't obvious at first. A late night here, an unanswered text there. Claire had always been dedicated to her job in marketing, so when she said she had to stay late for deadlines or client calls, I didn't think much of it. But, once in a while, quietly turned into almost every night. And then there was her phone. God, that phone. It was like an extra limb. At dinner, on the couch, even when she went to bed, always with her. Always face down, screen locked. If I asked who it was, she'd roll her eyes and shoot back, "Work, Daniel." "What, do you want me to get fired?" Or, "Don't be so paranoid, it's just my team." She made me feel crazy for even asking. But the thing that cut deepest was her laughter. You know the sound, the kind of laugh that comes from your stomach, the one that makes you laugh just because you hear it. That laugh used to be mine. It used to belong to us, over inside jokes, dumb movies, and late-night pillow talk. But lately, I'd hear it in another room, muffled through her phone, and when I walked in, it would stop like someone pressed pause. I told myself I was imagining things. That after 12 years, maybe I was just insecure, maybe I was reading too much into nothing. I kept convincing myself that I was overthinking. But that little voice in my gut wouldn't shut up. It told me that something had shifted, something I wasn't supposed to see. And once you notice a crack in the foundation, you can't unsee it. You start looking closer, testing the walls, wondering if the whole house might collapse. That's where I was, standing in the middle of what I thought was a safe harbor, realizing maybe it wasn't so safe after all. So here's where things went from uneasy suspicion to gut punch reality. It was a Friday night, the kind where everything felt just slightly off. Claire had told me earlier in the week she was going out with her girlfriends for a dinner downtown. Normally, I wouldn't bat an eye, she deserves time with her friends, right? But something about the way she said it stuck with me. Too casual, too rehearsed. And when she leaned in to kiss me goodbye, her perfume hit me like a memory. The red dress she had on, the one she used to wear for me on anniversaries or when she wanted to feel beautiful, well, now it was being saved for the girls. That was my breaking point. My gut screamed at me, louder than it ever had before. I'd spent months ignoring the little signs, convincing myself I was crazy, paranoid, needy. But that night, the unease hardened into certainty. I grabbed my keys and decided to follow her. I know how it sounds. Creepy, insecure, stalkerish even. But when your whole life feels like it's hanging on the edge of a cliff, you do things you never thought you would. My heart was hammering the whole time I trailed her car downtown. I had no plan, no idea what I'd do if I was wrong. But part of me already knew I wasn't. She parked near this cozy little restaurant, the kind of place with warm lighting and candles on every table. I stayed in my car, far enough back not to be noticed but close enough to see. She walked inside, her heels clicking on the pavement, her hair bouncing in the way I used to find irresistible. And then he showed up. Some guy, maybe late 30s, early 40s, confident like he belonged there. He slipped inside after her, and minutes later, I caught sight of them through the window. My stomach dropped. She wasn't with her girlfriends. She was sitting across from him. And not just sitting, leaning in, smiling, glowing in a way I hadn't seen in years. Then it happened. He reached across the table and touched her hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. Not tentative, not shy. Practiced. Familiar. That was the moment it all shattered. I just sat there in my car, frozen, staring through the glass. She laughed, that laugh. The one I hadn't heard in weeks, maybe months. But she wasn't laughing with me, or our kids. She was laughing with him. The man sitting across from her in the same dress she once wore for me. It was like being punched in the chest. Not just once, but over and over, each smile and touch driving the truth deeper. I hadn't lost her tonight. I'd lost her months ago, maybe longer, when her secrets became more exciting than our vows. I thought about storming in, making a scene, tearing the whole charade apart. But I couldn't move. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. All I could do was sit there, numb, as laughter and wine glasses clinked through the window. That night, I learned something brutal. Sometimes the truth doesn't come in loud confessions or shocking reveals. Sometimes it just sits across a table in plain sight, smiling at you while your whole world burns quietly down. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. I drove home with my hands trembling on the steering wheel, my mind replaying the image of her hand in his. I sat in our driveway for almost an hour, staring at the house we'd built, wondering how many of its bricks were held together by lies. When Claire finally came home, it was nearly midnight. She walked in smelling of wine and perfume, her cheeks flushed, her eyes bright. If I didn't know better, I'd have believed her story: girls' night, laughter, maybe too much Pinot Grigio. She even had the nerve to say, "You wouldn't believe how much fun we had," while dropping her heels by the door. I said nothing that night. But silence isn't peace, it's pressure building. By Sunday, I couldn't take it anymore. We were in the kitchen, kids upstairs, when I finally asked. "So, how was your girls' night?" She froze. Just for a second, but I saw it. Her eyes darted, her mouth opened too slowly. Then she smiled that fake smile and said, "It was fine." "Why? Who's he?" I asked. She blinked, tilted her head, gave this little laugh. "What are you talking about?" I laid it out, how I'd followed her, seen her at the restaurant, seen him touch her hand. My voice cracked, but I didn't care. The truth was out. Her reaction. Not guilt. Not even fear. She went straight to anger. "Are you serious, Daniel? You followed me? Do you know how insane that is? You're paranoid. Controlling. This is why I don't tell you things, you blow everything out of proportion." I just stood there, stunned. She wasn't denying it, not really. She was twisting it, trying to make me the villain. Gaslighting me like I hadn't seen what I'd seen with my own eyes. Finally, she snapped, "Fine. Yes, I was with someone. But it's not what you think. He's just a friend from work, and we've been meeting to talk about a project. That's it." God, you're unbelievable. I asked her why she wore the red dress. Why she let him hold her hand. Why she laughed like he was the sun and moon. She rolled her eyes and said, "Maybe because he listens to me without accusing me of cheating. Maybe because he makes me feel good about myself instead of acting like a prison guard." That was the knife in my chest. She didn't even try to comfort me, didn't try to explain in a way that made sense. She just doubled down on the lies and blamed me for being suspicious. By the end of that fight, I wasn't even sure what hurt more, her betrayal, or the way she looked me in the eye and made me feel like I was crazy for seeing the truth. After that confrontation, something inside me snapped. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just shut down. Imagine standing in the middle of your own home, hearing the woman you've built 12 years with call you paranoid and insane, when you know you're holding the truth in your hands. It felt like my heart had been hollowed out. I spent the next few days moving through life on autopilot. I still got the kids ready for school, still went to work, still mowed the lawn like nothing had happened. But inside, I was unraveling. At night, when she rolled over and pretended to sleep, I'd just stare at the ceiling, feeling like a stranger in my own bed. Claire, meanwhile, acted like nothing was wrong. She hummed while making coffee, scrolled on her phone at dinner, even asked me if I'd remembered to pay the electricity bill. The audacity of it, pretending everything was fine when we both knew it wasn't, made me want to scream. But here's the thing, when someone gaslights you enough, you start doubting yourself. I caught myself wondering if maybe I was overreacting. Maybe she really was just with a friend from work. Maybe I was the problem. That back and forth in my head was torture. One moment, I'd be furious, picturing her with that guy, remembering the way she laughed with him. The next, I'd be crushed, asking myself if I'd driven her away somehow. Was I boring? Too predictable? Did I stop making her feel wanted? I started noticing every little detail. Her phone never left her side. She started taking calls outside or in the bedroom with the door closed. She suddenly had new lingerie, stuff I hadn't seen before, and when I asked, she rolled her eyes and said, "Sales, Daniel. It's called shopping." Every excuse she gave dripped with condescension, like I was an idiot for even questioning her. One night, I broke down in the bathroom after the kids went to bed. I sat on the floor, my back against the tub, and cried in a way I hadn't since my dad died years ago. It wasn't just about Claire. It was about the life I thought I had, the safe harbor, the family dinners, the silly little routines. They weren't what I thought. They were a mask, and behind that mask, my wife had been slipping away for months. The worst part? I couldn't talk to anyone. How do you explain that your wife might be cheating, but you don't have proof she'll admit to? My friends would have told me to leave. My mom would have told me to fight for the marriage. I felt trapped in my own silence. So I bottled it up. I smiled for the kids, nodded through conversations at work, and meanwhile, inside, I was screaming. That was the emotional fallout, realizing that the person who's supposed to be your anchor can also be the storm that drowns you. If I thought things were bad after the confrontation, they only got worse. Once the lie is out in the open, even if she won't admit it, you start noticing everything. Every inconsistency, every slip of the tongue, every detail that doesn't add up. And Claire? She gave me plenty. The following week, she claimed she had to attend a team-building seminar. Overnight. At a hotel 2 towns over. I asked her why she hadn't mentioned it before, and she snapped, "God, Daniel, not everything revolves around you. I told you weeks ago, you just don't listen." Spoiler, she hadn't told me. I would have remembered. I asked for details, what hotel, what time she'd be back. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're not my boss. Stop interrogating me." That was it. My suspicion turned into quiet detective work. While she was in the shower, I checked her work bag. Inside, a lacy bra and panties, the kind you don't wear for an overnight seminar. My chest tightened, but I put everything back exactly how I found it. When Friday came, she kissed me on the cheek and left with a suitcase. I waited. Around 9 p.m., I called one of her coworkers I vaguely knew, Megan, just to ask, casually, how the seminar was going. Her confused silence told me everything. "What seminar?" she asked. That's when my blood ran cold. I didn't say anything to Claire when she came home 2 days later, smelling like hotel soap and excuses. She launched into a story about boring PowerPoint slides and trust falls, but I didn't even bother pushing back. I just nodded. I had what I needed, proof in her lies. The cracks widened in other ways too. Our intimacy, already strained, collapsed completely. Whenever I tried to reach for her, she flinched like my touch was an inconvenience. She started dressing up more often, for work. She changed her phone's passcode, claiming the kids were messing with it. She even started keeping her laptop locked away. And then came the sudden event that gutted me. One evening, she left her phone charging in the kitchen while she showered. A notification popped up, WhatsApp. The preview read, "Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you." My vision blurred. My hands shook. Before I could stop myself, I picked it up. The message was from Alex Red Heart. Heart emoji. My wife, the woman who mocked me for suspecting her, had someone saved in her phone with a heart. I didn't scroll. I didn't need to. That one message was enough to split my reality wide open. When she came downstairs and saw me sitting there with her phone in my hand, her face drained of color. For once, the bitchy confidence was gone. For once, she looked caught. But true to form, she didn't admit anything. She lunged for the phone, screamed at me for invading her privacy, called me controlling, pathetic, insecure. Then she locked herself in the bedroom and refused to come out. That night, I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling, realizing I was married to someone who could betray me, lie to my face, and still act like I was the problem. The cracks weren't just widening anymore. The whole house was caving in. Sleeping on the couch became my new normal. I didn't even fight her on it. I just couldn't stand lying next to Claire knowing she was slipping out of our marriage piece by piece, giving the best of herself to someone else. But the silence didn't mean peace. It was war, just a quieter one. She'd strut around the house acting untouchable, making little digs at me in front of the kids like, "Daddy's grumpy again," or, "Maybe if Daddy trusted people, life would be easier." She knew exactly how to twist the knife, and she didn't care who heard it. The tension boiled over one Saturday morning. The kids were watching cartoons, and I asked Claire point blank, "Who's Alex?" Her head snapped up from her phone, her eyes narrowing. "Excuse me. I saw the message." "I know, Claire. Stop lying. Who the hell is Alex?" For a moment, she looked like she might break down, admit it, let the truth out. But then the mask slipped back on, and she spat venom. "You don't get to go through my phone and then demand explanations. Alex is a colleague. We're working on a project. The heart is a joke. You're unbelievable, Daniel. Do you even hear yourself?" I lost it. Years of bottled frustration, pain, humiliation, all of it came roaring out. I shouted, louder than I ever had in my life. "Stop lying. I saw the message. People don't say, 'Last night was amazing,' after spreadsheets, Claire." The kids flinched. That broke me more than her lies. They shouldn't have to see their parents like this. But instead of softening, she doubled down. Her face twisted, and she screamed back, "You're pathetic. Always suspicious, always needy. No wonder I don't want to be around you anymore." That was it, the breaking point. In that moment, I realized I was clinging to a marriage that no longer existed. The Claire I loved was gone, replaced by someone who not only betrayed me but hated me for catching her. I grabbed my keys and left. No plan, no destination. I just drove. Ended up in the parking lot of a grocery store, sitting in my car, crying like a kid. I couldn't believe this was my life. 12 years of building, of trusting, of believing in us, all crumbling because she decided to rewrite the rules without telling me. When I finally went home hours later, the house was eerily calm. The kids were upstairs, and Claire was sitting at the kitchen table, glass of wine in hand, looking smug. She didn't apologize. She didn't even ask where I'd been. She just said, "If you can't handle being married to me, maybe you should leave." That was the first time she openly dared me to walk away. And for the first time, I seriously considered it. After that explosion, nothing in the house felt the same. The air was thick with hostility, but Claire acted like she had won some invisible battle. She strutted around with this smug energy, like daring me to do something about it. And me? I was hollow. Like I had screamed my soul out and there was nothing left inside. The kids noticed, of course. Kids always do. My daughter asked me one night while I was tucking her in, "Daddy, why are you and Mommy so mad at each other lately?" My throat tightened. How do you explain betrayal to a 9-year-old? I just kissed her forehead and told her we loved her, but my chest felt like it was caving in. Claire, meanwhile, doubled down on the lies. She suddenly had more projects that required late nights. She started locking the bathroom door when she showered, something she had never done in 12 years of marriage. When I asked her about it, she smirked and said, "Maybe I just like privacy now. Not everything has to be about you." One night, she slipped and left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. My hands shook as I looked, not even sure if I wanted to see. But there it was, emails from Alex, not even trying to hide. Flirty jokes, late-night plans, even a hotel booking confirmation for a weekend business trip. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I sat with the knowledge like a live grenade in my chest. I felt sick, angry, heartbroken, but also weirdly numb. Like I had seen so much already that nothing could shock me anymore. But she wasn't done with her games. The next morning, she casually mentioned needing space. She actually had the audacity to say, "You've been suffocating me, Daniel. Maybe if you weren't so insecure, we wouldn't be in this mess." In that moment, something in me clicked. She wasn't just cheating. She was rewriting reality to make me the villain. She wanted me broken, apologizing, begging her to stay, while she laughed with Alex behind my back. That weekend, she went to visit her sister. I knew better. I checked the hotel booking I'd seen in the emails and drove by. Sure enough, her car was there. And through the lobby window, I saw her, arm in arm with Alex, laughing like a teenager on her first date. I didn't go inside. I didn't confront her. I just stood there on the sidewalk for a long time, watching my wife play house with another man. Then I turned around, got back in my car, and drove home to our kids. That night, tucking them in, I realized something crystal clear: Claire wasn't coming back. Not really. Maybe physically, but not emotionally, not spiritually. She'd already left us. The only question left was, what was I going to do about it? After seeing Claire with Alex at that hotel, something inside me shifted. For months I'd been clinging to the idea that maybe I was wrong, maybe things weren't as bad as they seemed, maybe she'd snap out of it and come home to us. But watching her walk across that lobby, her arm linked with his, laughing like she hadn't laughed with me in years, it killed that hope once and for all. I went home, tucked the kids in, and sat in the dark living room for hours. The house felt like a tomb. Every photo on the walls mocked me, smiles from vacations, birthdays, anniversaries. A history I thought was real, but now looked like props in a play she'd already walked out of. That night, I made a decision: I was done being her doormat. Done letting her gaslight me, done letting her treat me like the crazy one while she lived a double life. The next morning, I played it cool. I made pancakes for the kids, joked with them, tried to be the dad they deserved. When Claire came home Sunday evening, wearing the same perfume from the night before, she breezed through the door like nothing had happened. She kissed the kids, tossed her bag on the couch, and gave me a pointed look, as if daring me to ask where she'd been. I didn't. Instead, I smiled. And for the first time in months, I wasn't the one squirming. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, I sat down at the kitchen table with my laptop. I went through our finances, our joint accounts, the mortgage, the kids' school schedules. I made notes, plans, lists. It wasn't about revenge, it was about survival. If she wanted to keep lying, fine. But I wasn't going to let her lies destroy me or the kids. Here's the sudden twist, though. 2 days later, Claire must have noticed the change in me. She cornered me in the kitchen and said, "You've been acting weird. What's going on?" I just looked at her and said, "Nothing. I'm fine." She narrowed her eyes, studying me like she couldn't quite read me. For the first time, she looked nervous. Like she could feel the ground shifting under her feet. That week, another event pushed me closer to the edge. I got a call from my son's teacher. She wanted to check in because he'd been distracted in class, quieter than usual. My stomach sank. Our mess was seeping into their lives. I had promised myself I wouldn't let that happen, but here it was, proof that the cracks in our marriage were reaching them too. That night, lying awake on the couch, I realized something simple but terrifying. If I stayed like this, broken and stuck, my kids would grow up thinking this was normal. A father who's a ghost in his own house. A mother who lies through her teeth and tears her family apart. No. I couldn't let that be their blueprint for love. And so, for the first time since this nightmare started, I felt a strange calm. A resolve. I knew the storm was still coming, but I wasn't going to drown anymore. I was going to stand up and face it. The turning point wasn't just discovering her betrayal, it was realizing I still had a choice. Once I accepted the truth, that Claire was gone in every way that mattered, my mindset shifted. The numbness that had weighed me down for weeks started to lift, replaced by something sharper, clarity. If Claire wanted to keep sneaking around with Alex, fine. But I wasn't going to let her drag me and the kids through her mess. I started planning for what came next. At work, during lunch breaks, I researched divorce lawyers. Quietly. I read story after story from men who had been blindsided, cleaned out, and left with scraps while their cheating wives walked away with half. I refused to be one of them. I made a private email, started saving documents, took screenshots of her hotel booking confirmation and those Alex Red Heart messages. It felt dirty, sneaky, but then I reminded myself, she taught me this game. I also opened a separate bank account. Nothing major, just enough to have something set aside for emergencies. If Claire decided to go nuclear, I wasn't going to be left empty-handed. But as I was quietly building my plan, Claire was unraveling in her own way. She must have sensed something was different, because she started acting almost possessive. Which was laughable, considering everything she'd done. One night, she came into the living room while I was working on my laptop and asked, "So, who've you been texting lately? You've been real secretive." The irony nearly made me choke. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Work stuff." Her lips tightened, like she didn't buy it. For the first time, she was the one on edge. Then came the sudden event that threw me off balance. Claire announced, out of nowhere, that she wanted to take a family trip. Just the four of us, to the mountains for the weekend. She pitched it like she was doing me a favor, saying, "We need to reset, Daniel. The kids deserve some good memories. Don't you think?" If I didn't know better, I might have believed she was trying to fix things. But I did know better. My gut screamed this wasn't about the kids, it was about her realizing I was slipping from her grip. Maybe Alex was pushing her, maybe she felt me pulling away, but whatever the reason, she was suddenly playing wife again. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Not because I thought it would fix us, but because I wanted the kids to have that time. The trip was surreal. On the surface, it looked perfect, hikes, hot cocoa, family photos. But underneath, it was rotten. Every smile from her felt forced, every touch calculated. At night, when the kids were asleep, she curled up next to me in the cabin bed like nothing had happened. I lay there stiff, wondering how many times she'd curled up next to Alex the same way. On the drive home, she held my hand on the gearshift, smiling like we were high school sweethearts again. And I realized, this wasn't reconciliation. It was manipulation. She wasn't trying to fix us, she was trying to keep me quiet until she figured out what she wanted. That was the final puzzle piece. She thought she was playing me. But now, I was playing her. The plan wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about taking my life back. By the time we got back from that family trip, I knew it was only a matter of time before everything blew up. The trip had been nothing more than a performance, Claire pretending to be the doting wife and mother while secretly glued to her phone whenever she thought I wasn't looking. The kids saw the smiles. I saw the cracks. So I prepared. I printed out copies of the hotel confirmation. I saved screenshots of the messages. I even logged dates of her so-called seminars against her credit card charges. I wanted everything lined up, because I knew when the moment came, she'd twist, lie, and gaslight like her life depended on it. This time, I'd be ready. The showdown came faster than I expected. One evening, after dinner, she slipped out to grab groceries. The kids were in bed, and I was cleaning up when I realized she'd left her tablet on the counter. Curiosity burned through me. I opened it, half expecting it to be locked, but it wasn't. There they were. Messages with Alex. Not just flirty lines, whole conversations. Plans. Jokes. Memories I wasn't a part of. One line hit me like a sledgehammer: I wish Daniel would finally grow a spine and leave. It'd make this easier. My vision blurred with rage. She wasn't just cheating, she was mocking me with him. When she came back an hour later, carrying a half-hearted bag of groceries, I was waiting at the table. I had the tablet open, the messages lit up on the screen. Her smile faltered instantly. "What are you doing with that?" I didn't shout. My voice came out low, steady. "How long, Claire?" She froze. Then, predictably, she tried to twist it. "Wow. So now you're snooping through my private stuff. Do you hear yourself?" I slammed the hotel confirmation down on the table. "Cut the crap. I know. I know everything." She went pale, then flushed red, then did what she always does, attacked. "You're pathetic. You've been spying on me like some obsessed loser. Do you think this makes you look strong? God, no wonder I needed Alex. At least he treats me like a human being." That was the dagger. Not an apology. Not even an attempt to deny it anymore. Just pure venom, aimed at me. I laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. More like the sound of a man who's finally done bleeding. "You know what, Claire? You win. You've been living a double life, and I let you make me feel crazy for it. But it's over now. I'm done." For the first time, her mask slipped. Her eyes widened. "What do you mean, done?" I leaned in, calm as I'd ever been. "I mean, I've spoken to a lawyer. I've got the proof. And you're not going to gaslight me anymore. You can have Alex. You can have your lies. But you don't get to destroy me with them." Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. For once, Claire had no script. That night, I didn't sleep on the couch. I slept in our bed, while she sat downstairs nursing a glass of wine, probably realizing the game was up. It wasn't the end, not yet. But it was the beginning of the end. After the showdown, the house felt like a pressure cooker. Claire knew the jig was up, but instead of showing remorse or even guilt, she doubled down in ways I didn't expect. It was like she couldn't decide whether to beg for control or burn everything down. The morning after, she was overly cheerful with the kids, making pancakes and singing along to the radio like she hadn't just detonated our marriage the night before. It made my stomach turn. When the kids left for school, her smile vanished. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, and hissed, "So this is it? You're really going to throw everything away over some stupid fling?" I stared at her. "You threw it away, Claire. You just didn't have the guts to admit it until now." Her eyes flashed with something between fear and rage. You think you'll come out of this looking like some hero dad? Good luck. Divorce isn't clean, Daniel. I'll take the house. I'll take the kids. You'll regret this. That was her play, threats. Not love, not repair, not even regret. Just raw, ugly threats. But here's the thing, by then, I wasn't afraid anymore. I had my documentation, my lawyer's advice, and the clarity of a man who's already lived through the worst betrayal. She couldn't scare me anymore. The kids, though, they were the hardest part. My son asked me at bedtime, "Why do you and mommy yell so much now?" My daughter said, "Mommy's on her phone all the time. She doesn't listen." Hearing their small voices put weight on my chest that no courtroom could match. They deserved peace, not this war zone. Over the next week, Claire's behavior spiraled. One day she'd cry, saying, "We can fix this. We can go to counseling." The next, she'd scream that I was ruining her life. Then she started guilt-tripping me, "Think about the kids, Daniel. Do you really want to break up their family?" I did think about the kids. Constantly. But what I realized was this: staying in a toxic, loveless, life-filled marriage was breaking up their family, just slowly, painfully, in front of their eyes. The final straw came when I overheard her on the phone with Alex, whispering in the laundry room. She thought I was outside, but I was upstairs. I'll never forget her words, "Don't worry, baby. He won't actually leave. He's too weak." That was it. The nail in the coffin. Not only was she cheating, she was betting on me being spineless. That night, I told her I'd be filing. Her face went white, then twisted in rage. She threw every insult in the book at me: pathetic, worthless, bitter, boring. But I just stood there, calm, letting her venom spill out. Because deep down, I knew the truth: she wasn't angry about losing me. She was angry about losing control of me. The fallout wasn't pretty, but it was necessary. Filing for divorce wasn't the ending I wanted, but it was the ending I needed. Walking into the lawyer's office with my folder of evidence felt surreal, like I was signing away not just a marriage, but the life I thought I had. 12 years of memories, 2 kids, a house that once felt like a fortress of love, reduced to paperwork and legal terms. Claire didn't take it well. When the papers were served, she exploded. One minute she was threatening to take the kids, the next she was sobbing, saying, "We can work this out, Daniel. Please. Don't throw everything away." But the words rang hollow. If she had wanted to work it out, she wouldn't have been sneaking off to hotels, laughing with Alex, and mocking me behind my back. Her tears weren't for me, they were for the control she was losing. The kids, though, they kept me grounded. I had long talks with them, age-appropriate but honest. I told them mommy and daddy loved them very much, but sometimes adults can't stay married. It broke my heart when my daughter cried and asked if it was her fault. I held her and promised her over and over that none of this was because of her or her brother. This was about mommy and daddy, not them. The months that followed were brutal. Claire tried every tactic: manipulation, guilt, anger. At one point, she even showed up at my work, causing a scene, shouting that I was ruining her life. My co-workers pretended not to stare, but I could feel the pity in their eyes. But through it all, I held firm. I had finally found my spine, the very thing she swore I'd never have. And every day I stayed strong, I felt lighter. Looking back now, here's what I've learned. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let gaslighting convince you otherwise. Protect yourself. Emotion blinds you, but documentation and preparation will save you when things get ugly. Think about your kids. They see more than you realize. Don't let them grow up thinking betrayal and manipulation are normal. Don't beg someone to choose you. If they're capable of betraying you, they've already chosen themselves. To anyone reading this who feels that gnawing in your gut, who notices the phone always face down, the sudden late nights, the unexplained laughter, don't ignore it. Don't wait until your life feels like rubble under your feet. I wasted months letting Claire rewrite reality while I twisted myself in knots trying to make sense of her lies. But once I finally stepped into the truth, I found something I thought I'd lost, myself. So here I am, not a victim, not a weak man, but a father and a husband who stood up when it mattered. The marriage is gone. But I'm still here. And in a strange way, that feels like victory.